What is autoethnography? Well, autoethnography provides a diverse way of telling people's stories. As defined by Catherine Russell in her paper Autoethnography, Journeys of the Self, autoethnography is a vehicle and a strategy for challenging imposed forms of identity and exploring the discursive possibilities of inauthentic subjectivities. She also references James Clifford, who says, though it, autoethnography, portrays other selves as culturally constituted, it also fashions an identity authorized to represent, to interpret, even to believe, but always with some irony, the truth of discrepant worlds. In other words, it's a sense of the self that is thoroughly grounded in experience and observation. Self, deriving from auto, and the study of self through ethnography. Ethnography is the study of culture through participation. This combined with autobiography, where an author selectively writes about their experiences, is what births autoethnography. Autoethnography is also described by Russell to be the ideal form of anti-documentary. These examples are described as essayistic, as the writer incorporates the I of their commentary on the world. I understand how this can all be confusing. These descriptions can raise a lot of questions. One might ask how this is different from an autobiography. Russell describes autobiography becoming more ethnographic when, at one point in the film, the videomaker understands his or her personal history to be impacted in larger social formations and historical processes. What this insinuates is that the identity is no longer just self-related, but a staging of subjectivity, a way in which representation of the self relates to performance. These identities can span through different discourses, whether it's that of ethnic, national, racial, sexual, and etc. bases. These accounts can be very important as an allegory for a culture or community that cannot be enlarged by inauthentic subjects. As Russell states, themes of displacement, immigration, exile, and transsectionality are prominent in this mode of filmmaking. An important note made by Russell is autoethnography invokes an imbrication of history and memory. The authenticity of experience functions as a receding horizon of truth in which memory and testimony are articulated as modes of salvage. Because these experiences come forth from a person's memory, we are experiencing fragmented recounts. In other words, memory is highly falsified. However, this doesn't mean this form of recountment is invaluable, but it's something to consider. Something very common within autoethnography is a first-person voiceover in which the filmmaker relays their story. Russell explains the phenomenon as only one of three voices, the first being the speaker, the second being the seer, and the third being the seen. For example, another popular way to create autoethnographies is by the staging of an encounter within the filmmaker's parents or grandparents who embody a particular culture of history of displacement or tradition. Any of the ways to portray an autoethnography allows the subject to account for the audience to see, not experience. For this project, I decided to interview my grandmother. She comes from a particular background that I thought could be important to highlight. I wanted to understand her background and experiences more, as she was an orphan. I know I've definitely felt feelings of insecurity regarding my future, so I wanted to know how she felt as an orphan and growing up past that. What in particular did she feel due to her circumstances? I decided to ask her about her story. Here is her response.
I was a adopted child at the age of 10 back in the 1950s. And up to that point, I was shuffled from one place to the other in the foster system. The life before our adoption was a series of one stay in the orphanage. It wasn't that long before they put us into the foster care system, and we moved around quite a bit. In the foster care system back during that time, you were not left for any long period of time. Of course, being a child at that time, it seemed like it was a long time, but in looking back, I can see that it wasn't. Prior to that, I lost my mom in childbirth with a little brother when I was, must have been around the age of four or five, somewhere around there. I don't know her name. I remember Dad's name, but rest of that I don't. I know that we were migrant farm workers. Then after moving back to Newport, where my father's mother and dad lived, and we stayed with them for a while, and all I can remember is both of them being bedridden, and the church group got involved at that point, and it was at that time that we were removed from the family and put into the foster system. The future was always uncertain. And then in the late 1950s, a couple wanted some children. Did not matter whether they were boys or girls, so my sister and I fit the bill for that, and we were adopted into the family there. After being adopted by Walter and Letha Ford, we had a scheduled life. I mean, we were able to go to the table at night and be sure to have food at night and have breakfast, and then go about our daily chores. As time went on, I could see things were looking up. We had a stable place, had food on the table, a place to sleep at night securely, and for the first time in years, there was love for my sister and myself. I now have in my life 2 lovely granddaughters. Both of them are in college. And as a child myself, growing up back in the Arkansas home, education was very much talked about. My mom had been a first grade school teacher. She instilled in me a desire for a higher education, and so that put me on my road to getting my college degree. Other than that, I guess life has been blessed for me and my family. We moved back to Texas for a while, but enjoyed the mountains up here, so decided to spend the last few years of our mobile life here in the mountains. So we found a place on the top of a hill overlooking the Smoky Mountains and are enjoying the view and the life that comes with it. And with the help of our Lord, we hope to continue enjoying the life for several more years.